After 9 years of this golf project, I figured out how to swing, and I know exactly how Ben Hogan, Mac O'Grady, they do it, okay? Those are my other videos where I show you how. I want to go over the mistakes I've made, the key mistakes that I kept making over and over, that I think it's educational for you to know. Number one is, if this is your midline, and this is common to everybody, it's the reason golf is difficult, because when we stare at a golf ball and put a club in our hands, our brain, our vestibular system will freeze up, and we don't want to move that head. And so what I would do is I would pivot. Instead of going to the right and loading properly, my sacrum would go over here in the backswing and then over here. Well, this is a death move, okay? You can't golf like that because your upper body's all out of sync. So when you're over here like this, you're gonna come over the top. You're gonna come over the top. That's the reason you can't do it. So mistake number one, and I was stubborn, and I actually figured out ways to golf that way, but they weren't reliable. So number one is I wasn't pivoting right. So I fixed it when I realized a couple of things. It's this feel of the shoulder plane. If this is the ball, you want the shoulder behind the ball. And you do that by doing things with your legs. I'm not going to get into how you do it. Those are my other lessons. But when I realized, oh, this is how you do it, and then you move over here, okay? The next thing I fixed was letting my upper body work properly. So the reason it was always uncomfortable to load to my right is I wasn't letting my upper body move. So then I had this concept that is unique to me. I don't see other people talking about it. It's the feeling of the sternum. And if you pray, you just feel it. So when I realized this sternum turns in an arc, that was huge for me, okay? So you load to the right and that sternum is arcing. And then on the downswing, sternum is arcing. And this is what they talk about, covering the ball. When you cover the ball, what are they talking about? Instead of spinning out to the right. So before I realized this, I would be stuck to the right in my downswing. And look, there was like this imaginary glass wall here. I just couldn't get past it. It was this sickening feeling, that like an imaginary glass wall. And I just wanted to do this instead of turn through it, okay? So that was a huge problem I had by fixing that imaginary glass wall. So when I realized that, then I let my sternum turn, okay? So first I was pivoting in the backswing wrong, and then in the downswing, I had that imaginary glass wall. And the third mistake that I just realized, which is something I don't see anyone talking about, but only the greatest golfers do it. Nicklaus, Snead, Hogan, Knudsen, what they do, and the reason people don't talk about it is because you can't see it on video, is I wasn't using the internal muscles properly, and so I wasn't getting proper external and internal rotation of the leg, of the hips. You can't see it. You can see whether or not the toes are how you see what's going on with the hips. So this motion of the leg here, when I realized that, oh my gosh, it opened up a world to me. So, and this is what Nicklaus and Snead talk about. But when they talk about rolling the ankles in the backswing, rolling the ankles in the downswing, they're talking about hip rotation. And that is what very, very few golfers see. So some of the best golfers on tour, I think their swings suck. Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, all these people, they have this heel that lifts like that. That's how they get around a problem. Their problem is that they're not properly getting internal rotation, so they spin off the right toe. It works, and for them, they've gotten it to work, but they have to do a lot of compensation. Colin Morikawa has to do an extremely weird grip so that he doesn't. So the reason you don't want to do that, because you're going to come over the top. If you throw that knee forward, you're going to come over the top unless you have like a weird Colin Morikawa grip or something, okay? Or you get excessive side bend. You got to do a lot of compensation when you fly that heel over. So what you want is, and I've got videos of this, I won't waste your time, but it's all the pitching motion in baseball, and football is you get internal rotation of the right leg, external rotation, that foot stays planted. When you realize that, then that was the other piece of the puzzle. So I started to realize, oh my gosh, I wasn't using muscles properly. And a good way to test that is go out there and try to throw a football. If you can't throw a spiral, you're not going to be able to golf properly, okay? So then I realized I wasn't using the inside of my legs properly, so I wasn't getting proper hip movement. That was a key fix. So now that I fixed that, instead of reverse pivot, I get proper pivot. My shoulders are in the right position. And then the first thing I do is I arc the sternum in the downswing. And as I do that, I'm getting the proper hip motion. Now, how you get that beautiful ball compression that looks effortless, like Matt O'Grady and all these people, it's all up here. So if you have the proper, if your center of gravity is a few inches farther than normal, then you're going to have that perfect ball compression. And that'll be one more mistake I made. I learned about this, and that brings me to another point. I've learned about this concept of the counterfall, because I saw the greatest golfers from here to here, they would kind of fall from P3 up to P4 and then P5. They had their center of gravity was sort of going effortlessly, and then they would swing. And I tried to force that and so forth, and it was a disaster. And I recently realized that's a tempo issue. You get that by using the club. So when I learned how to do the counterfall, your backswing's done here, and then you throw the club. You get this momentum from the club. So when I learned how to do the counterfall, then that got my center of gravity over the ball. Boom, okay? So those were the 4 issues I was trying to solve for 9 years. And my failures taught me a lot, but now I know how to do it. So these problems are not solved by some of the best players. As I said, I can point out a lot of top players. I don't like their swings because they have never solved some of these mysteries, and then they have to compensate. Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, many. They have little quirks and they have to overcome it. That's why one week they're great and you don't hear from them for another year. It's streaky, okay? And they don't even know what they're doing. It's just, they just learn from a kid, and so they don't understand it. So if you do these basics, you can get the world's easiest, most elegant swing if you just do it right.